So this whole thing with my uncle blew up in a way I did not really see coming, and it's been sitting on my mind for weeks now. I want to lay it out because I honestly do not know if I crossed the line or if I finally just snapped after years of being put down. My uncle has always been the kind of man who thrives on appearances. He's loud, competitive, and the type to make every conversation about money or success. If someone in the family buys a new car, he'll bring up how his is newer. If someone's kid graduates from school, he'll talk about how his son is on a better path. He thrives on being seen as the most successful person in the room, and he does not just enjoy it quietly, he broadcasts it over and over until people get tired of hearing it. When it came to his son, my cousin, that tendency was magnified 10 times. My cousin was his pride project, his way of showing off what a good provider he was. For years, all we heard about was how much he invested in his son's education, how he gave him opportunities that other kids did not get, and how proud he was to have paid for everything outright. Every family event turned into some variation of that story. And then there was me. My mom raised me mostly on her own, and while she worked hard, we did not have the financial security my uncle's family had. When it came time for me to think about college, I knew right away that I couldn't afford the dream school route. I went to community college first to save money, worked part-time jobs, applied for scholarships, and eventually transferred to a state school. On top of that, I had to take out loans, which meant I graduated with debt hanging over my head. It wasn't easy, but I got through it. To my uncle, though, that made me the cautionary tale. He used me as the example of why parents should cover their kids' education. He made comments about how loans hold you back, how some kids have to take the long way around, and how his son did not have to suffer the same fate because he, as a father, stepped up. He said these things in front of me for years, sometimes directly comparing me to his son, sometimes just dropping barbed comments with a smirk. My mom would tell me to ignore him, but it's hard to sit through family dinners when you are the punchline of someone else's speech. After graduation, life took a strange turn. By coincidence, my cousin and I ended up working at the same company. He got in with help from my uncle's connections, while I applied the traditional way and went through interviews and got the role on my own. At first, we did not cross paths much, but over time I worked hard, put in long hours, took on projects no one else wanted, and gradually built a reputation. Eventually, I earned promotions, and one of those promotions put me in a management position. By sheer twist of fate, my cousin ended up on my team. This wasn't something I broadcasted. In fact, my cousin specifically asked me not to tell his dad. He knew exactly how his dad would react, how much bragging and drama it would cause, and he did not want to deal with it. I respected that because honestly, I liked my cousin. He was arrogant like his dad. He did his job, he was easy to work with, and he treated me with respect, so we kept the fact that I was his manager to ourselves. Everything was fine until the family gathering. It was a big one. Lots of food, lots of relatives, the usual mix of chaos and catching up. For most of the day, I kept to myself, talking to cousins, helping with food, avoiding the spotlight. But of course, my uncle eventually found a way to make the event about himself. At some point, he started talking loudly about how much money he spent on his son's education, how proud he was to have covered everything, how it was the best investment of his life. It was the same speech we had all heard countless times before. But then, as always, he used me as the contrast. He made a point about how some kids had to whine about loans and go through community college and how it slowed them down in life. He said it loud enough for everyone to hear, and it was clear who he was referring to. Normally, I would have let it go. I have been swallowing those comments for years, but this time he pushed further. He turned to me with a smirk and asked where I was working, in this exaggerated tone that made it sound like he expected the answer to be unimpressive. He was setting me up to be laughed at again. And that's when I broke. I told him the name of the company, and then I added that I managed a team there, including his son. The room went silent. Everyone turned to look at me and then at my cousin, and then back at my uncle. The smug look vanished from his face instantly. My cousin looked uncomfortable, and the rest of the family were stunned. It was the first time I'd ever pushed back, and the weight of that revelation shifted the entire energy in the room. The rest of the evening was awkward. My uncle barely spoke. My cousin avoided me. The other relatives tried to move the conversation along, but everyone could feel the tension. After the gathering, my uncle lost it. He accused me of humiliating him in front of the family, of exposing something that should have been kept private, and of betraying my cousin. He said I made him look like a fool after years of bragging about paying for his son's education. He claimed I had been waiting for the perfect moment to take him down. That wasn't true. I did not plan it. I did not even think about it until the words came out of my mouth. But once I said it, there was no going back. Now the family is divided. Some relatives told me privately that I did the right thing, that my uncle had it coming after years of belittling me. Others think I went too far by dragging my cousin into it, since he did not deserve to be put on the spot like that. My mom supports me fully, but even she admits my cousin probably got caught in the crossfire unfairly. As for my cousin, things have been tense. He has not confronted me directly, but our work interactions feel colder now. We used to talk casually, even joke around sometimes, but now it's just strictly professional. I know he probably feels betrayed because he asked me not to tell his dad, and I ended up revealing it in the worst possible setting. I do not regret standing up to my uncle. For years, I let him make me the punchline of his success stories. I let him act like I was the example of what happens when you do not fund your kid's future. The reality is I worked hard to build my life. I took the harder path. I carried debt. I hustled through school and work, and I still managed to come out ahead in some ways. I am not ashamed of that. If anything, I'm proud of it. But I do regret that my cousin had to be collateral damage. He did not ask for this. He did not mock me. He did not deserve to be humiliated in front of the family. I hate that he's now stuck in the middle of his dad's anger because of something I said. So here I am, stuck between pride and guilt. On one hand, I feel like I finally stood up for myself and put an end to years of being put down. On the other, I feel like I threw my cousin under the bus to do it. I keep asking myself if I could have handled it differently, maybe just shutting my uncle down without revealing that detail. Maybe just refusing to answer his question, maybe just walking away, but in the heat of the moment it felt impossible to hold it in any longer. And now the family dynamic has changed. My uncle avoids me and my cousin is distant. Some relatives treat me with newfound respect, while others look at me like I caused unnecessary drama. It's messy, and I do not know if I made things better or worse in the long run. So that's where I am at. I don't regret standing up for myself, but I do regret the way it spilled onto my cousin. AITA for exposing that I am my cousin's manager after my uncle mocked me at a family gathering. Update 1. So a lot of people ask for an update. after my post about the family gathering where I revealed to my uncle that I was actually my cousin's manager at work. At the time, I ended the story at the point where my uncle was furious with me. My cousin was distant, and the family was split on whether I was wrong for what I said. I thought the drama might just die down, but things actually escalated in ways I did not expect. The first real shift happened at work. For a couple of weeks after the family gathering, things between me and my cousin were stiff. He kept everything strictly professional, no small talk, no casual conversations. I figured he was just embarrassed and needed space, so I did not push. But then I started noticing subtle changes in how he interacted with me in the office. He still did his job, but there was an edge to it. He'd avoid volunteering for projects if I was the one assigning them. He stopped coming to team lunches. It was like he wanted to put a wall between us, even though technically I was still his manager. It all came to a head when my director pulled me aside one afternoon and asked if something was going on between me and my cousin. Apparently, my cousin had gone to HR and complained that it was complicated working under me because of family issues. He did not accuse me of anything inappropriate, but he made it clear that he felt uncomfortable with the reporting dynamic. I wasn't angry with him for that. I kind of expected it after everything that happened, but it still stung. I had worked so hard to keep our professional and family lives separate. All it took was one family gathering for the lines to blur beyond repair. HR ended up moving him to a different team. On paper, it was supposed to help restore professional boundaries, but in reality, it felt like he was trying to get away from me. Meanwhile, my uncle was still fuming. He did not just stop at being mad at me privately. He started spreading his own version of the story to the family. According to him, I humiliated him on purpose, waited for the right moment to embarrass him, and betrayed my cousin in the process. He left out the part where he mocked me first, of course. Suddenly, relatives I thought were neutral started acting cold towards me. Some people even suggested that I was jealous of my cousin and looking for a way to one-up him. What made it worse was that my cousin never corrected any of it. He did not defend me, but he also did not deny it. He stayed silent, which I guess I understand. He's caught in the middle, but that silence made it easier for my uncle's version to spread, unchecked. Then something unexpected happened. A few weeks later, the company hosted a corporate event. It was a big deal, lots of networking, executives, presentations. I had to give a talk about one of the projects I managed. I did not even realize until afterwards that some family members had found out about the event and watched the live stream. Apparently, word got back to my uncle that not only was I managing his son at one point, but I was also being recognized publicly by the company for my work. That set him off again. He called my mom and ranted about how I was rubbing my success in his face, how I was trying to outshine his son, how I was turning everyone against him. My mom tried to calm him down, but the damage was done. Now he wasn't just angry at me, he was turning it into a competition between me and my cousin, even though I never wanted it to be that way. The real blow came at the next family gathering. I debated not going, but my mom asked me to show up because she did not want me to hide from the family. I went, thinking maybe things had cooled down. They hadn't. My uncle ignored me completely, would not even look in my direction. My cousin kept his distance too, sticking close to his dad. It was clear the lines were drawn. At one point, I overheard my uncle talking to another relative, bragging again, but this time the bragging had shifted. He wasn't talking about paying for his son's education anymore. Instead, he was saying how proud he was that his son was strong enough to walk away from toxic situations at work. clearly referring to the HR move. He reframed the whole thing like his son had risen above my supposed power trip. I did not confront him, but it burned to hear the story twisted like that. The part that really hurt, though, was my cousin's silence. I kept hoping he'd pull me aside and clear the air, even just to say he understood why I snapped at his dad that night. But he never did. He let his dad rewrite the story. He stayed out of it. I get that he does not like conflict, but it feels like I lost, not just peace at family gatherings, but also the relationship I had with him. Now I feel stuck. On one hand, I do not regret finally standing up to my uncle. For years I let him mock me and make me feel lesser. I worked hard for everything I have, and I'm proud of the fact that I managed to build a career without the financial cushion his son had. But on the other hand, the fallout has been bigger than I imagined. My cousin and I do not talk anymore. Family gatherings feel tense and divided, and my uncle is doubling down on his narrative to save face, making me out to be the villain. Sometimes I wonder if I should have just kept my mouth shut that night. If I had let him make his little jab and laughed it off, things would not be this messy. But at the same time, part of me knows he would have kept doing it forever. Maybe he still would have found another way to tear me down. I'm also wrestling with the fact that my career is doing well and his son's isn't moving as fast. And even though I did not want to turn that into a competition, it feels like that's how the family sees it now. I do not want to be the person who looks like they're gloating, but no matter what I do, my uncle spins it that way. So here I am, months later, with family relationships in tatters, no real resolution in sight. I do not regret my hard work. I do not regret where I am in life, but I do wonder if I made the wrong call in that moment by letting the truth slip out. Update 2. I did not plan on writing another update, but things have shifted again since my last post, and it's left me with even more mixed feelings than before. To recap quickly, my uncle mocked me at a family gathering for going through community college and taking loans, compared me to his son, whose education he funded, and then tried to put me on the spot by asking where I worked. I revealed that not only did I work at the same company as his son, but that I was his son's manager, and that turned into a massive blow-up. My cousin went distant, HR ended up moving him to another team, and my uncle doubled down on his narrative that I humiliated him and tried to turn the family against him. That was where I left off. Now, for what happened next. About a month after my last post, I got pulled into a meeting with upper management. It wasn't disciplinary, but they explained that my name had come up in the conversations outside of work. Apparently, my uncle had been running his mouth about me to people he knew in the industry, painting me as some sort of unprofessional manager who let personal issues bleed into the workplace. It was clear he was trying to damage my reputation. Luckily for me, the company did not take it seriously. My track record spoke for itself and my performance reviews were solid, but it still stung that he would go that far. I kept my head down, focused on work, and tried to ignore the noise. My cousin, meanwhile, completely stopped interacting with me outside of what was strictly necessary. No hellos in the hallway, no acknowledgement at all. It was like I had become invisible to him. Then came the real breaking point. My cousin and I were both nominated for a leadership development program within the company. It's competitive and seen as a stepping stone towards higher positions. I did not even realize he had applied until the short list was announced. When I saw both our names, I felt sick. I knew how this would look to the family if I got in and he did not. Sure enough, when the final selections came through, I was accepted into the program and he wasn't. I hadn't even celebrated before I started dreading the fallout. And I was right. My uncle exploded again. He called my mom, furious, claiming I must have sabotaged my cousin's chances, that I was leveraging my position to block his progress. None of it was true. The selection process was handled by executives I do not even directly work with, but in his mind, it was the only explanation. The next family event was the most hostile one yet. My uncle did not just ignore me this time. He actively tried to turn people against me in real time. He loudly talked about how unfair the corporate world is, how some people step on others to climb, and how his son was the real victim of nepotism being used against him. The irony of him crying about nepotism after bragging for years about his own connections was not lost on anyone. But some relatives still nodded along out of fear of conflict. My cousin avoided me the entire night. At one point, I caught him looking at me with this mix of anger and disappointment, and that was the moment it hit me that whatever bond we had before was gone. We used to be on good terms, we used to respect each other, but now in his eyes, I was the enemy. What really twisted the knife was when one of my younger cousins pulled me aside and asked if it was true that I was blocking promotions for my cousin. I realized then that my uncle had spread that story so far that even the younger generation in the family were hearing it. My reputation wasn't just under attack at work, but inside my own family too. The tension finally boiled over at work. My cousin submitted a transfer request to a different branch in another city. HR approved it, and he quietly moved away without ever saying a word to me. He did not say goodbye, did not send a message, nothing. He just left. I found out through mutual colleagues that before leaving, he told a few people he couldn't work in the same environment as me anymore. That crushed me. Not because I think I did anything wrong at work. I was always fair with him professionally, but because it confirmed that whatever personal respect he once had for me was completely gone. Now my uncle has taken that move and weaponized it even further. To the family, he's been spinning it as his son being forced out because of me, painting me as the reason my cousin had to uproot his career and life. At the most recent gathering, he flat out told people I was toxic, that I sabotaged my cousin's path, and that I have turned into the exact kind of arrogant person I used to resent. The most painful part is that some people believe him, not everyone. Some family members know my work ethic and see through his bitterness, but enough of them have bought into his story that it's tainted how they treat me. There's a clear divide now. Some are supportive, others look at me like I'm the villain of the family. And I can't lie, it hurts. I have worked my ass off for every inch of progress I have made. I did not have a financial safety net. I did not have someone paying my way through school. I did not have connections, smoothing my path into the company. I grinded through community college, debt, long hours, and sacrifice, and yet somehow I am the one being painted as the manipulative opportunist. I have thought a lot about whether I regret that moment at the family gathering where I revealed I was my cousin's manager. On one hand, I still feel like my uncle had it coming. He had mocked me for years, dismissed my hard work, turned me into the family punchline. On the other hand, that single moment set off a chain reaction that destroyed my relationship with my cousin and poisoned the family dynamic beyond repair. Would my uncle still have found a way to hate me if I had stayed quiet? Probably. But I can't ignore that my cousin is gone now, transferred to another city, cutting ties, and my uncle has more ammunition than ever to spin me as the villain. I'm proud of where I am professionally. I'm proud I made it without the advantages my cousin had. But it feels like I have lost more than I've gained when it comes to family. So now I'm left wondering if standing up for myself was worth the fallout. Update 3. I did not think there would be anything else to add, but I guess life has a way of dragging things out longer than you expect. This should be my last update. After my cousin transferred to the other city, I thought the tension might cool down. With some physical distance, maybe everyone would just move on. Instead, my uncle ramped things up even more. He couldn't stand the idea that I came out looking stable while his son looked like the one who had to run away. He started calling relatives regularly, repeating the story that I had deliberately made work unbearable for his son, until he had no choice but to transfer. He told people I pulled strings, that I was power hungry, and that I made it my mission to sabotage my cousin's career. The story grew more dramatic each time he told it. What I did not realize at first was that he wasn't just bad-mouthing me to the family anymore. He was also trying to poison my reputation in the industry. He had a few contacts in similar companies and he fed them the same narrative. I only found out because someone I knew in another firm reached out to me privately and said, "Hey, just so you know, there are rumors about you making the rounds." At first I panicked. Reputation matters a lot in my field. Last thing I needed was to be branded as manipulative or toxic. But then I realized something important. The people who mattered, the ones who worked with me day to day, already knew my character. My results were undeniable. My performance and the way I treated my team spoke for themselves. Once I calmed down, I decided not to engage in my uncle's smear campaign at all. I wasn't going to get into a mud fight with him. Meanwhile, my cousin finally broke his silence. Out of the blue, he sent me a short message. "I hope you are happy. You got what you wanted." And that was it. No context, no explanation, just that one line. I stared at it for a long time, wondering if I should reply. I wanted to explain, to tell him that none of this was what I wanted, that I never wanted to be his enemy, but I stopped myself. It was clear his mind was already made up. No matter what I said, he was going to believe his dad's version of events. That realization hurt more than I thought it would. Losing the bond we had feels like a permanent fracture. We were not just cousins, we used to be close. Now I do not think that relationship will ever recover. The family dynamic has shifted permanently too. Holidays and gatherings are basically divided now. People do not say it out loud, but you can feel the split in the room. Some relatives sit with me, talk to me normally, ask about my work in a supportive way. Others keep their distance and treat me like I'm radioactive. My uncle has his little circle of loyal supporters and I have mine. My mom has been caught in the middle, which I feel guilty about. She wants peace in the family, but she also defends me fiercely. She knows how hard I worked, how much I sacrificed, and she refuses to let my uncle's version of the story go unchallenged. That's created even more arguments between her and her brother, arguments that have spilled into phone calls and family WhatsApp groups. The final straw came at my grandmother's birthday. Everyone was there, including my uncle and cousin. I did not want to cause a scene, so I kept to myself most of the evening. But my uncle couldn't resist. He made a passive-aggressive toast talking about how some people think they're successful because they trampled others, but real success is about lifting your family up, not tearing them down. The room went silent. I felt every eye shift towards me. I did not say a word. I just sat there staring at my plate. But my mom had had enough. She stood up and in front of everyone laid it all out. How my uncle had mocked me for years, how I had put myself through school, how I had taken on debt and worked multiple jobs to get where I am, how his son had every advantage and still blamed me for not keeping up. She said, "If anyone's tearing down the family, it's you for refusing to acknowledge the truth." It was the first time anyone had openly challenged him like that in front of the whole family. My uncle turned red and sputtered something about lies and stormed out. My cousin followed right behind him without even looking back. Since then, things have been strangely calmer. My uncle has not spoken to my mom or me. He's keeping to his side of the family, probably still ranting, but at least I don't have to deal with it directly. The smear campaign has not gone anywhere. Most people see it for what it is now. My cousin is still gone, and I have accepted that he's probably not coming back into my life anytime soon. As for me, I've doubled down on my work. I completed the leadership program, and it opened doors I would not have imagined a few years ago. My career is on a solid track, and I know I earned every step of it. But family is complicated. Every achievement I make now comes with the shadow of what will they say about this. So here I am, ending this saga. My uncle and cousin see me as the villain. Half my family's divided. My mom and I are closer than ever, but the cost has been losing relationships that I thought would last a lifetime. And I keep circling back to the same question, was it worth it? If I had stayed quiet that night, maybe none of this would have happened, or maybe it would have come out eventually anyway. I don't know. All I know is I stood up for myself once, and the fallout has been huge. Stay tuned for more stories from our girl relationships.